question ever, and it involves everything. Is it possible that Napoleon is reincarnated and living amongst us and someone we've all heard of, Elvis Costello, who I like to call Cohen, because he's my king of America, Napoleon Dynamite. So I like to call him that, and I think he should be king of everywhere because I really do think he's Napoleon. And I think he's so much more than people think he is. And I have been listening to him since the 90s, and he's always telling you, you don't know who I am. I'm not what you think I am. He's always saying that. And yesterday, I didn't bring it up. I'm so overwhelmed by everything that's going on. I read a letter yesterday on the stream from Napoleon to Josephine where he sounds just like a Cohen song. He's jealous and worried and obsessed, and all the things that I love about him is in that Napoleon letter. So it's so obvious, I don't even know what to say. And then we read Cohen's memoirs, and he was mentioning how he's working on Imperial Bedroom. And I found out about Cohen in the 90s. So I had to go back and find out about his whole career because as an American, he wasn't sold to me. That's what I mean when I say his career's been sabotaged. I can't believe when I look at these albums like King of America, and I'm like, I never heard of King of America when it came out. None of these things were in any way marketed to me. We all know, we've all heard this, we've all heard this story that his career's been sabotaged. It has. So in the 90s, when I got into him, I was already obsessed with Napoleon. I became obsessed with both of them at the same time in like 96, around there. And that's when I was a writer for a paper. My first media job that I got squeezed out of because I was asking questions I wasn't supposed to ask. I didn't realize you couldn't do that. But if you do that, they'll find a pretext. As long as they have that pretext, they can do anything they want. So they came up with the really dumb pretext and squeezed me out of my media job. So anyway, so I used to write for a paper. And then, I, look, I learned, I was like early 20s, and I realized, oh, there's no way I can ever function in this atmosphere. It's not what they're saying. You're not there to write and be a writer. You know, you're there to just put up press releases from the publicists, straight from the financiers who are controlling everybody's mind. Looking back, now I understand what it was. They don't tell you these things, they just squeeze you out. Oh, that one's going to be very disruptive. So that was my life. I would get media jobs and I'd be disruptive. Anyway, so I went back to focusing on my plays and my books, and I wrote screenplays too. And while I was trying to become a better writer because I thought it had something to do with my writing, no, it didn't have anything to do with my writing. I could have been the greatest million Shakespeares rolled into one. It wouldn't have made a difference because of the atmosphere we're in. It's very hostile to culture and talent. It's all about lust for money and do anything for money and shut up and take the money and whatever, the degeneracy, and then be degenerate while you're doing it. That's the ideal. And then anything outside of that, it's very strictly prohibited. You can't be truthful. Now you can't even leave and see a Cohen concert anymore. I can't even go see him in concert. That is so crazy to me. I've complained that I'm rambling really bad right now, but my point was that I really became interested in Napoleon and Cohen at the same time, and I could really see that they were the same. And I was like, wow, they're so similar. I could see it. They're very, like, they're so dark, but under it really nice. I could always perceive that. That's why I got so mad later. I stopped believing that he was nice, but he is nice, and Napoleon is very nice, but they seem so scary because Napoleon was a warrior, and Cohen talks like one, so he's pretty scary too. But I think we're gonna get through that, and we're gonna show the real Napoleon, and we're gonna show the real Cohen. And they are scary. I think they're I think they are scary. I think you're right to be scared of them because they have power that's not normal. That's for sure. Some people just have a lot of power personally, and he's one of them for sure. I Now that I know him, I would never mess with him. I wouldn't even think of it. And you see, I mess with everybody. But see, the people I mess with, I understand they have all the money in the world, but anything they do is going to expose them and hopefully bring them down. That's the difference between, to me, someone like Cohen and someone like Rico Puppet Master, who pulls the strings on the whole world with that financial system that he's got right in his hand, just like a dragon holding a treasure. And he's got all of these spies around the world helping him keep that treasure in his dragon claws. And then there's the spy system, and then there's all the secret societies, and they're all making sure that Rico Puppet Master keeps that treasure because they're all feeding off of it. And they're all criminals, and they don't know what to do, but we could find another way. Even the criminals, we could find another way. So many people are criminals because how do you even make a living outside of crime? I live in a rich area. I know how criminal this is gangster's paradise. Literally. It's no exaggeration. So this is a great time to talk about these things because when you have a world which is seized by rampant organized crime, it's terrible. It's so much more pervasive than you think. I mean, now I think people are understanding that from the top to the puppets, the real puppets that put these rules on us. It's organized crime, and organized crime comes in, acts like they own the place, and if you don't pay them money, they'll threaten you and shake you down, and that's just what organized crime does, and that's exactly what Rico Puppet Master does. He acts like the whole world is his. He turns the whole world into like militarized zone, and then you have to like beg and scrape to live here. That's not acceptable. I understand this is a vast organized crime system, but we way outnumber them. And I understand we all need money, and they have all the money. We have to find other ways to get along with each other. We have to find other ways to trade with each other. We have to move on. They're going to kill us, and that's their plan. They've shown that to us constantly. And I say this on my blog, and I'm going to have to keep saying it. I'm being permanently quarantined as a completely healthy person. It's because they couldn't find any other way to frame and vilify me. Look at it. I told the truth. I wouldn't turn to the dark side. So they turned me off and blacklisted me. And now I'm being framed as a contagion when I've never been healthier in my life. Thank God. I actually got my health back during this period where they've been turning the whole world into a human experiment nightmare. And it did kill my mother, and it killed a lot of people's mothers. This is, I can't believe they guilt tripped us about Auschwitz our whole life and then snapped their fingers and made the whole world Auschwitz. So now we know who we should be guilt tripping about Auschwitz. It's the one with that financial system in his claws. That's the one who was behind. It wasn't him, but it was he's part of it. He's part of the group that writes the scripts for things like Auschwitz. Now that the whole world is Auschwitz, someone wrote that script. That didn't just happen. And it has everything to do with central banking. And the reason I'm saying it again, like I always say it, is because we have really good transits to engage in spiritual warfare. Right now, Mars and Neptune are somewhat aligned, and Mars is in Pisces. Okay, I know that that's kind of jargon, but what that means is Mars is very empathetic and spiritual. I know this sounds ridiculous, but think of it as Mars is the god of war in like the softest, nicest, most supportive church ever, where everybody's wonderful and caring and genuine. That's where Mars is right now, in just a beautiful, ethereal, foggy environment. So Mars is very, maybe even a little wimpy for Mars, but he's very spiritual. And we have that. We can be kind and powerful, just like Mars is in Pisces. And Neptune is also in Pisces. So so think of Pisces as this like wonderful, genuine, spiritual community where people are just wonderfully supportive to each other. And Neptune's there too. So it's so powerful. It's so spiritual. It's so, we can go to the spirit realm and we can find out the truth. I have to say that I feel I've had an explosion in my spiritual gifts lately. I can see the future um, more and more. And it's just so, I just hear it over and over and over again what's going to happen. And what's going to happen, if you want to know, is we're going to win. That's what's going to happen. We're going to win. I hear that all the time. I've been hearing that for years. It's just a question of it collapsing. And we're going to be spiritually aligned and we are going to listen to our guides and we are going to know what to do. And please look at the astrology report because I do spell it out. And this alignment between Mars and Neptune is also between Pisces and Aries, which is again the sign of Mars. See, so we're very powerful right now. We can really move forward spiritually right now. We can see things. We can know the future. We can be very telepathic right now. We don't have to accept any of these boundaries. Neptune and Pisces can dissolve all of these traps and walls that have been put up around us. That's very like Saturn, all the walls and traps that they're always putting up. And there's a square between Saturn and the sun right now. So it's a great time to shine the light on these corrupt structures, please. And Saturn is in Aquarius. So the kind of Saturn we have right now is like a quirky, philanthropic, cares about humanity, wants us to get along. This is not the typical oppressive Saturn. This is a Saturn that breaks the rules. Saturn is the rules. See, but all of that kind of heavy Saturn misery delays should be maybe offset by the sort of revolutionary, brilliant, eccentric energy of Aquarius. And it's square the sun in Taurus. And Taurus is all about values. Okay, I'm trying to show you that the focus is on values and getting along, Venusian, Venus type matters. And then it's square. It's in a difficult, painful aspect with Saturn, but sometimes pain helps us grow. And Saturn is in Aquarius. So Saturn, the structures want to be more fair and they want to be less rigid because Aquarius is a rule breaker. It's a revolutionary spirit. So this is like revolutionary structures, which was almost Napoleon, because Napoleon came in and created revolutionary structures. He revolutionized the law. He revolutionized banking. He revolutionized agriculture. He was if you think about it, a very Saturn and Aquarius type person because he was benefiting everyone. It was so important to him to help people. It's so sad. It's so sad he was removed from power. It's so sad that people that want bad for us hold authority, and then people don't understand their true self-interest. Their true self-interest is to stand up for themselves and their families and their countries. Their true self-interest is not to just shut up and take the money. Seriously. And everyone who just shuts up and takes the money, I understand you have to live. I get that. We all are in a horrible atmosphere, but it's being made to be horrible. And I'm constantly drilling this story on my blog about Peter Duesberg inventing the AIDS virus. I'm so sick of their games. The point is, the same people did the same thing before. It killed a lot of people. And because they got away with it, they did it multiple other times. And now here's just another time. They just roll this out periodically because it's a great way for them to kill a lot of people and make a lot of money. And their goal is to clear the earth of us. So they have to constantly kill. This is it. This is the truth. They tell you, they don't hide it. You just have to pay attention to them. And then they have all of this like Oscar mania and all this stupid stuff that they push on people to distract them. But they're telling you. And I have to wonder about how their religion works, that they tell you. So I highly suspect, and I'm going to say it like that, I highly suspect there's some rule in their religion that they have to let us know what they're doing to us. And it absolves them from the responsibility of what they're doing to us because we're so stupid to let them do it. I think that's their whole loophole that lets them do anything that they want. Well, we told them, and they watched Oscar Mania. I made that up, but you know what I mean. They watched the stupid crap we put out for them. So they're not worth it. Let's just get rid of them. I think that's their logic because they do tell you. They do tell you that they are very much planning to rid the world of all the extra people. It's not. I don't hear anybody out there saying that I'm off my rocker. Maybe because I'm blacklisted, but I'm blacklisted because I'm telling the truth. I feel like the best thing they could ever possibly do for me was blacklist me as far as my credibility is concerned, because I say things that are so eccentric, but reality is actually very eccentric. So anyone who really sees what's going on is going to sound crazy because we've been lied to our whole lives. So we have this completely false impression of what's important. See, values. People think it's important to go see the game on Sunday, or they think it's important to watch HBO or something, and all their conversations involve HBO shows they watch. That's all fake. That's not reality. And then when you get outside of like what's on HBO or something, you like can't even talk to people because they're just like, oh, but that's what we do. We just talk about HBO shows. And I'm not watching HBO shows. So it's once people are stuck in this like media saturated fake paradigm, they're not in reality, but they think that's reality. What celebrity went to Starbucks that morning? You know, like they think that's real. And this was very slowly pushed on us as humans. We used to have culture, and then it became replaced with visits to Starbucks. It's all ads. Anyway, that's what I realized when I was a celebrity photographer, that they have developed this appetite for pictures of actresses going to Starbucks, and people think that that's content. And as a celebrity photographer, I was creating that content. I was like, wow, this is what we're down to. Pretty grim, obviously. So I was thinking, they have fooled the public into thinking they want this garbage. It's just ads. It's complete ads straight from the feed it's used to distract you from what they're doing. It's a complete racket. Incredible. So then I thought, hmm, what if I made content that was actually good? I bet I could do better than actresses going to Starbucks. I bet I could beat that. And that's really where the project came from. I could probably come up with something better than what they're doing. Their content's horrible. Hate that stuff. Anyway, so I figured if I made content that was more interesting than their content, whatever, whatever, that's just pictures of people at Starbucks, right? So they set the bar so low. And that's the funny thing about them. They just have a few little tricks and they always work because they've got all that money behind them and they can just stuff money in people's mouths. I mean, it has to change. We can't have a whole world of just bribed people running everything, because then the whole world turns into Auschwitz, and I can't even go see a musician in concert because they have created this situation. And how much you wanna bet it's to create problems for the musicians? How much you wanna bet this is all on purpose so the musicians, can't get ahead? Why? Because musicians are the biggest threat to the financiers with the money machine in their claws. No one likes them at all. And people love the musicians and would follow them and would listen to them. And if the musicians got together and started to speak to their fans, things would really change. But they can't do that because all their money comes from touring, and the whole system has been so rigged against them. They're getting, from what I'm hearing, they're getting robbed left and right. It's a monopoly. Of course they're getting robbed left and right. There's no other alternative. So they can take it or leave it. That's how it is. And they're not making anything close to what you think they are. And they're kept they're kept so they can't be a threat to the Mr. Bank over there, Mr. Rico Puppet Master. It's all about him constantly neutralizing everybody on this planet as a threat to him, because everybody's a threat to him because of that money system in his claws. If anyone takes that money system from him, he knows. So he has to hold the musicians back. He has to blacklist me. He has to make sure I never get anywhere near Cohen. They know he they profile us. They probably know him very well. And if they have been spying on him, Cohen's been saying he's being spied on since I put a song up from Trust today. Trust is all uh, my personal interpretation because I really don't ever know what he's saying. But he sounds like he's being harassed by spies in Trust, the album Trust. And the eyebrows are cute. Anyway, so they know him very well by now. They know he would have liked me, and they kept me away from him. And I have been jumping up and down, doing things about Napoleon since 1998. And I have been in daily news, and I've had plays running in the city, and I've had plays in Denver. I am no secret to the internet, and I had I had a blog of obsession about him and Napoleon with a whole this year's model design on it. It was cool. So don't tell me, don't tell me no one ever knew that I existed since 1998. I've been very much findable since then. So we need to really see how much our lives are being manipulated. And now, after being such a fan of his, and it just so happens that I've been framed as a contagion, and it just so happens that I can't go to see him in concert. Give me a break. This is people playing chess with our lives. And oh, guess what? That's not legal. You cannot you can't do that to us. And I'm not going to allow it. Absolutely not. And I know that I have a lot of support. We're really sick of it. We are really sick of it. Anyway, so I have a letter from Napoleon Hortense, and I've been talking about how I got so mad. I just have to change the subject. It's hard for me. I do get really mad, but I have Mars and Aries on my ascendant. So, big time hothead. My point was, they know. This has been on purpose. They know the way he is. I'm just going to say that over and over again. Let's just take it back to Napoleon. Let me stop obsessing on that point because I'm convinced about it. But I'm not sure, but I am pretty convinced that there's been a lot of games being played for, I think, 2 decades. But maybe I'm wrong. So I've been talking about how Napoleon had this problem with Hortense. He made her Queen of Holland. He made her his sister-in-law. And then he told her to go back to her abusive husband. He did not know that he was abusive, but then her son died. And Napoleon blames himself for it, and he protects her because he's afraid he's going to lose her because she became extremely suicidal, very sick. And then Holland did actually melt down. That's the whole problem. But it's part of it's melting down because Hortense can't play her role. And Napoleon knows it, but he's still protecting her. So here is one of those instances where he does the wrong thing politically because personally he can't handle hurting her anymore. He can't kill her over this. So that's one of the little quiet moments of Napoleon where the women he loved, and certainly he loved her, really affected his decisions. And some of those decisions were terrible, like Russia. And I was saying that the other day, that he ruined Marie Walewska's life, his Polish mistress, and then he wasn't going to do anything for Poland. It's like he couldn't destroy her life, and she was a good person, and she gave herself to him for Poland. Like he should not have gotten anywhere near that Russia situation. We start the memoirs with that. Please listen to the memoirs to see how similar Napoleon is to Cohen. So Napoleon really does make decisions from his heart. But who knows? Who knows what would have happened? So I can't believe my rambling. I'm sorry. Anyway, so yeah. All right, I'm going to read this letter. So her husband has abdicated, and she was at a health resort because she was so sick. And then Napoleon is saying to her, okay, Louis Roanoff, you can come back to me. You're out of this marriage. You don't have to worry about Holland anymore. He couldn't, this wasn't working. Let's continue. You should have received a message from Holland informing you of the latest act of madness on the part of the king, Louis. I suppose you will advise me of everything, and that you have not made any decision as of yet. I shall write you as soon as you inform me of what was written you from there. I wish to reunite Holland and France. I shall send you a copy of the letter I wish you to write to the council of the Regency. If you have not yet answered them, I consider it would be proper for you to send one of your officers to bring back the Crown Prince. You will have him come to Plombières if you still intend to remain there some time. If not, you could go back to Leeken to meet him, and from there bring him back to Paris. Freed by the act of the king, you can live quietly in Paris. I only wish to know also that you have quite recovered your health and that you're no longer worried. Your affectionate father, Napoleon. This is what he was dying for anyway, because he wanted her to come back to him. But I'm trying to show you, like, his actions are showing how important she is to him. And then at the same time, at this point, this is 1810. He's just married Marie Louise. he's really a different person in 1810. He's the emperor of the world. He's Marvel. He's not letting his real self out anymore. But you have to go in between the lines, and he kind of sells out. That's a really interesting thing also, and it's true. Um, he was seduced into all of this stupid royal garbage. Everybody knows it. It's very obvious. It's the first thing you see, that when Napoleon was a little boy, he loved his generals and his kings, and he was very influenced by the royal glamour. And then when all of these glamorous aristocrats seduced him into that lifestyle, he did embrace it. And a lot of people didn't like him anymore. And I saw that in Cohen's career too. It's another incredible parallel. The parallels are unbelievable. But by the time Napoleon marries Marie Louise, he's not the same Napoleon. He has been seduced by their disgusting garbage. And it is glamorous and it is very beautiful, but it's built on, let's just say, very bad things. But yeah, it's interesting. Okay, so let's get into Cohen's story, which I feel really does parallel Napoleon a lot. Hopefully he'll win this time. I want him to win this time, and it's up to everybody to make sure he wins this time. Okay, people did not back Napoleon up like they should have. Many did. But we need to support him 100%. 100%. And the musicians, listen, I'm going to say this. I get that you guys rely on touring. I get you're not as rich as people think. I get that they keep you on a shoestring. I see it. It's clear. It's very clear. I know that you guys need to tour. And, the venues are controlled by them. Exactly. Well, then all the venues are Auschwitz human experiment, bully, intimidation, harassment. It's illegal to permanently quarantine people when they can't prove their event was a such and such that year. They can't prove it. Okay? The burden of proof is on them. So all of these venues are maintaining like Auschwitz type rules because I am being quarantined because I know better than to participate in a human science experiment from literally the group that created the Nazis. Okay? This is worse than the Nazis. What are the Nazis known for? Human experiments. Why? That's these people. These are the Nazis. It's the ones that fund the Nazis. I understand I say the same thing every day, but I know who I'm up against. I'm up against the terrorist Nazis who are involved in organized crime. That's who I'm up against. And then if they want to push an injection on me, I'm going to probably not take it. And then when I hear that my mother died from it, I'm going to not take. So I'm permanently quarantined, and all the venues are supporting Nazi terrorism, discrimination. Again, I'm only doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm telling the truth. I'm trying to save my country from a group that's continually pushing my country into war. Okay? I'm doing the right thing. I shouldn't be the blacklisted one. All the musicians should be supporting me. We have to find a new way to do business. Okay? I mean, please, a farm field would be better than this Auschwitz discriminatory bullying. And I have supported a lot of you. And I think I'm not going to say you owe it to me, but you owe it to your souls to start leading your people correctly because they trust you. I can't believe I'm saying all these things, but this has to change, and the musicians can change it. And there has to be other ways than demanding human experiments of people to go see a concert. Okay? That would only be an idea hatched in the darkest bowels of hell. Okay? That's who's running things. Rico Puppet Master, with his bank in his claws, all of these spies circulating around him. They're basically publicists. And then all the secret society people that take the money and do whatever they're told. And they're so deep in it, there's so much blackmail on them, they have to do whatever they're told. That's the whole world and how it's set up to protect that scam that Rico Puppet Master is running. All right, enough of that. Felt good to get it out that time, though. Okay, please, musicians, a farm field, anything is better than this. There has to be an other way. I understand that the venues are owned by the banks. I get it. But if the banks want global Auschwitz, there has to be a point where we find a new way. Okay? Because I can't be permanently quarantined and I can't be permanently quarantined if my twin flame Napoleon exists on this planet. I can't live like this. And he is like amazing. And you should all be supporting him 100%. I know he like blows everybody away, but don't hold that against him. He can't help it. He's amazing. Anyway, don't be jealous of him. Support him. I know people get jealous of him because he's amazing, but don't be jealous of him. Support him. That was Napoleon's problem as well. People were very jealous of him because he was such a genius, but he was kind and he was happy to help people and he was good. Let me continue. Thank you so much. Our sessions were as luxurious in appearance as they were in generous duration. We'd booked 12 weeks of studio time, a fantastic amount of leeway, given that my first record was cut in a total of 24 hours, and this year's model in a mere 11 days. We turned our studio into a fancy playroom filled with new toys. I bought myself a marimba and a xylophone and a big shiny new acoustic 12-string guitar. I also purchased an accordion, although it took 3 of us to wrestle any music out of it, laying the instrument on a table so Steve could play the keyboard, while one of us worked the bellows and the others held the beast in place. We hired a harpsichord and an orchestra. Isn't this how the Beatles had done it? I don't know. Maybe we should have gone down the hall to ask one of them. But of course, we never did. We employed instruments that we wouldn't even have admitted to liking back in 1977, especially the Mellotron, which was then about as far out of style as flared trousers. I hadn't seen one of those things since a man tried to sell one to my dad in the 60s. He was the father of a lad I knew, and some sort of sales representative for the Mellotron Company. He claimed to have the future of music sitting in the front room of an ivy-covered house next to our parish church in which Dickens had briefly dwelt. One Sunday after Mass, we were invited to a demonstration of the newfangled gadget. My dad was a little skeptical that a machine could actually replace an entire orchestra, but as he was singing in front of a bunch of grouchy saxophone players every night, I suppose the proposition might have held some appeal. I remember the Mellotron as being very impressive in size, like the kind of organ that Vincent Price played in The Abominable Dr. Phibes. But this is probably my memory playing tricks, because all of the pictures I can find now show an instrument on a rather more modest scale. Our host switched on the contraption. With the flourish of a stage magician, he depressed a couple of the keys, and out came a wobbly recording of voices that sounded appropriately like monks chanting in a horror film. He pressed some buttons on the console, and on the sound switched rapidly from a drunken brass band to a pair of waterlogged flutes. Another triggered a recorded drum pattern that resembled someone repeatedly kicking a suitcase full of spoons. Eventually, my dad was persuaded to try out the instrument, but the split-second delay between depressing a note and the head engaging with a tape loop within the cabinet made it nearly impossible for him to play in time. It seemed those jobs in the orchestra would be safe from this particular musical miracle for some time, and we left without placing an order. Needless to say, it was this disjointed and otherworldly quality that made the mellotron so attractive to psychedelic musicians. We took for granted many of the woozy sounds and extreme recording processes that were first dreamed up by engineers like Jeff Emmerich, Norman Smith, and their colleagues at Abbey Road. Jeff was just a young man of 20 when he took on the engineering work in Revolver and went on to make his reputation with Sergeant Pepper. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate it. I hope I'm making my point.